It's getting to be that time. The spring is right around the corner. Yet another Duke baseball season is on the horizon. And let's catch up. What's going on with Kara Lawson and the Duke women's basketball program? We have that conversation and more on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks for being with us here today on this Thursday, February 8th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils, your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. Excited to talk about Duke baseball today with our good pal Chris Edwards from the Blue Devil Network. You hear his voice on Duke women's basketball broadcast, baseball as well. Excited to catch up with him. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to our podcast for free on wherever you get your podcast. Watch it each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we really do appreciate your support. So let's go ahead, and without further ado, let's bring on in our good friend Chris Edwards, who's here with us now. And Chris, thanks for being here. How are you?
JJ, great. Always good to be with you. Appreciate the invite.
It's a fun time of year, a busy time of year, as like we said, we're gearing up for the start of spring sports. What is this time of year like for you in your world, Chris?
It's busy. I think busy is an understatement, JJ. I mean, we've already started spring sports on Duke's West Campus. We had, at least I did. I had some lacrosse last weekend. Coach Danowski's lacrosse team with a big win over Bellarmine to start the season, the preseason number 2 Blue Devils. They looked really, really good in the season opener. We'll see them a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. Same with Kirsten Kimmel and women's lacrosse. They get their season started here pretty soon. Also baseball, as we talked about. I've got some softball, and then there's a little bit of basketball going on too. So it's busy, but we like it busy, right?
Yeah, a plateful, that's for sure. Trying to keep up with all the various rules that are going on with all these sports and
so if you
going
listen
back and forth.
if you listen to me and I say that something is like a touchdown or something and we're playing baseball, you know that Chris needs some sleep. Speaking of myself in third person.
Yeah, we'll forgive you for sure with that. So, we're gearing up for another baseball season here, man. About a week away from the start of Chris Pollard running it back once again. He's done so much for the Duke baseball program, and it's hard to believe. Like it feels like just yesterday we were entering year 1 of his leadership with this Duke baseball program, and now all these years later, it's really in a groove, it seems.
Yeah, that's a testament to him, obviously, and the coaching staff and the players that he's had come through. I mean, you want to look at like the model of consistency, right? That's the Duke baseball team. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that every year was great. It took him a little while to build it, right? I mean, this is year 12. Didn't get to a regional until 2016. They were knocking on the door in 2014, and I thought probably should have gotten in, but, that's neither here nor there. Then 2016, they make the regional for the first time in 55 years. And we've talked about this before, JJ. I kind of akin it to a child or to a person that's just kind of getting going in their life, right? You've got to walk, you've got to crawl before you can walk, and you've got to walk before you can run. And that was the thing I thought with this Duke baseball team and this Duke baseball program. They had to crawl a little bit. They got to a regional. That's crawling. And they got a really bad break with South Carolina losing the first game. So Duke had to face South Carolina in an elimination game. They hung with them. Lost, I think it was 3-1, 3-2, something like that. So that was 2016. 2017, missed the NCAA tournament. Then 2018, you win a regional down in Athens. You're a win away from Omaha. 2019, same thing. You win a regional in Morgantown. You're a win away from Omaha. And then this guy, Kumar Rocker, comes out and throws a no-hitter, and he probably would have no-hit the 27 Yankees that
right.
I don't know that I've ever seen anybody throw a game that good against Duke ever. So that was 2017 or 2019. 2020, I felt like, and I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to go to my grave thinking this. I felt like that was the year Duke was building toward, right? That was the year where it was all going to come together.
Yeah.
So many pieces back. It's such depth in the bullpen.
That's
and
right.
then COVID happens, right? And then the season gets cut short after, 14 games. 2021, they get hot, win the ACC tournament. 2022, another great year. And then last year, man, we kind of know what happened there. Get deep into the NCAA tournament, a win away from Omaha, and lose in Charlottesville. But so, you know what, JJ, you look at it, 3 super regionals in the last 6 years, a team that and a program that's on the doorstep. Coaches said it all summer long, all fall long. They're knocking on the door, and it's time just to knock the door down and get to Omaha. And that's obviously the next step for this program. And I think they've got a group that can do it this spring.
Yeah, and there are not many programs that are in that position. Certainly teams wishing that they could say, hey, we've been to 3 supers in the last X number of years. And for some schools, that's never been the case. So really excited to see what he's going to be able to do this season. So with that being said, tell us a little bit about this team. What does the roster makeup look like for Coach Pollard's bunch this year?
Yeah, I think the first thing that jumps out is the depth from the mound. I mean, you've got so many guys back from a season ago. Sure, you lose a couple guys. You lost Alex Gow, who was such an anchor at the top of the rotation for Duke last year. But you look at the guys that are back, and I think it's more important to focus on who's back for Duke this year versus who they lost, because they didn't lose a whole lot of guys. Jonathan Santucci back after getting hurt last year. I mean, remember, he got hurt in March, and that's kind of when the Blue Devils reinvented themselves, right? So Santucci's back. In theory, I would assume would anchor the Friday night rotation. Andrew Healy, who started games for Duke, is back. Ryan Higgins started games for Duke. He's back. Fran O'Shell, who pitched for the collegiate national team this summer, is back. James Talon, who was Duke's closer, is back. Charlie Bielenson, who set the school record in appearances and led the team in strikeouts last year, he's back. Gabe Nard is back. Aiden Weaver is back. I mean, we're just going to keep going on and on.
This is good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you look at Duke's stats from last year, I think there were 10 or 12 guys that threw at least 20 innings for Duke last year. That's kind of what they had to do. They had to, had openers. Nobody was going to go more than 2 times through the order. Very rarely did somebody go a third time or start a third time through the order. And that wealth and that experience is going to pay off for Duke this year. So it's a deep team. I feel like the pitching staff is one of the best in the country. Brady Kirkpatrick has done such a great job in his second year as Duke's pitching coach now. And I just feel like that experience from last year, going into the ACC, going to a super regional, that's only going to help this Duke team, right? And I think there's just so many guys that can give you innings, and that's certainly a good thing. We haven't talked about the freshman arms and how good those guys are coming in. And then you look at this group offensively, there are some question marks, sure, but I think the one thing you circle and you point to is the fact that Alex Stone is back. And for me, JJ, that's one of the biggest surprises of the entire offseason is that Alex Stone is back. I don't understand how that guy didn't get drafted. He hit over 300 in the ACC with over 20 home runs and 80, 90 RBI. And he caught every single day. I mean, who catches every single day in the ACC? Both ends of a doubleheader, a day game after a night game. Who does that? And he was one of the best catch and throw and receive guys in the conference, plus what he did at the plate. We hadn't even mentioned the fact he reached base in 36 straight games last year, had a 30-something game hitting streak, and that wasn't like he was legging out infield singles or something, right? Like Stoner, not the fleetest of foot. I mean, he was making balls all over the yard. That's the biggest surprise for me, and a pleasant surprise that Alex Stone is back. You lose a lot positionally, more anyway, than you did last year, but there's a lot of guys, a lot of transfers that have come into this team, and let's be honest, it's not like Duke has swung and missed a whole lot with those graduate transfers. They've really hit home runs. You think about what MJ Metz did for Duke last year, especially in the postseason, playing on one leg, right, at first base. So we'll see what these transfers can do. There's a lot of guys that the Blue Devils are really, really high on. And it feels like a team that may early in the season, JJ, have to win some games 2-1, 3-2. But I feel like this is going to be a team that's going to hit for power. Duke hit almost, I think, more home runs than anybody else in program history, or one of the top 5 last year. They're going to run some balls out of the yard this year, but I do think this is going to be a team that doesn't swing and miss as much. They put more pressure on the base pass. They can run and hit and run. They can hit gap to gap. So really complete team. I feel really good about where this Duke baseball program is at heading into this year. And it feels to me like a team that's going to contend to get to Omaha, going to contend to host a regional, which obviously getting to Omaha is the ultimate goal, right? But I think hosting a regional, that's the next step for this program, something they've not been able to do. They were close last year. They were close in 2018. If they can put it all together this year, no reason to think this Duke team can't host a regional in 2024.
Excited to see this baseball season ahead and talking a little bit more in detail about some guys that are going to make an impact for this Duke baseball team with our friend Chris Edwards. And we'll continue this conversation after we take our first time out here on today's episode of the program. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. That's right, we're getting ready for the big game, and Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users get $100 off when you buy a big game ticket with code VEGAS100 with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They've got deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find those last minute seats. You can find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. Terms apply. Just download the app and use code VEGAS100, VEGAS 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside my friend Chris Edwards, one of our dear friends and a voice that you hear so frequently across all Duke athletic events. Tell us a little bit about what the spring's going to look like for you. What all is going to be on your plate, Chris?
A lot of things. We kind of touched on it earlier. A lot of baseball, a lot of lacrosse, some softball as well. Mostly home baseball, though. So you'll get a lot of Chris Edwards at home baseball. But there'll be some lacrosse and some softball sprinkled in, too.
I can't wait to be watching those games and hearing your voice, folks, as well. Go check it all out. The Duke baseball team is going to be really exciting and fun to watch. It's pretty rare, Chris, that Duke baseball receives national recognition this time of year, more so about a month and a half ago or so. But Chad Knight caught the world on fire with his ability to recite every single World Series champion. Unbelievable stuff with that clip that kind of went viral. Who is Chad Knight? Tell us about this.
Yeah.
And what you thought of that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Chad's just kind of like that. He's such an intelligent guy, as most of these guys on this Duke baseball team are. I mean, Chad is just super down to earth, really good dude. I had no idea he had that ability. Chad kind of got started, though, in his baseball career early. He actually played in the Little League World Series, one of a couple guys on this Duke baseball team.
How about that? Wow.
Yeah, Devin Obie was another one. Both got a chance to play in Williamsport. So they've been on the big stage before. But I don't know that Chad thought he was going to go viral for naming all the World Series winners.
That's just impressive. Like, I don't know how one day you realize that you're able to do this, or just studying the history of the game and that sort of thing. But you and I, from time, feel like we forget what we ate for dinner last night.
I forget what I did yesterday. I mean, what did I do earlier today? Where are my keys? I don't know.
Pretty impressive stuff. All right, so you mentioned the big back coming back for Duke and Alex Stone behind the plate. A lot of guys departing to start professional careers with this Duke baseball team after a season a year ago. Tell us a little bit more about other guys in the lineup that you think are going to become more recognizable names for Duke throughout the course of this baseball season.
Yeah, I think Devin Obie is primed to have a big year for Duke this year. I think Devin's kind of been building toward a year like this. I feel like Chad Knight could be a big part of what Duke wants to do offensively as well. I would watch out for a transfer of Ben Miller. He's a Penn transfer, a Durham native. I think he's got a chance to really impact the Duke lineup as well. They got some holes to fill, certainly. You remember Alex Mooney was at the top of the order really every game last year, was such a tone setter and a key leader for this team, both on the field and in the clubhouse. They've got to find someone to match that leadership and that energy. But I think they've got the guys to do it. I mean, there's a lot of upperclassmen in that room, and I really feel like this is a team that, especially as the year goes along, going to get better offensively. They're not going to be a finished product in February and March, and that's not a bad thing. I think the best teams that Duke has had have been a team that gets better as the year goes along. I mean, I think of that 2021 team that kind of middled their way through most of the baseball season, and then kind of toward the end of the year got really hot at the right time, won 9 straight games to end the regular season, and then found a way to win 4 more games in Charlotte in the ACC championship, won it all, and then got sent to really tough regional. But I feel like those best Duke teams are the ones that kind of keep getting better and better as the season goes along. You think about last year's team, they had a couple of hiccups here and there, but for the most part, a team that got better incrementally as the season went along and played their best baseball down the stretch. So I suspect we'll see something similar this year for Chris Pollard's group.
So you mentioned the ACC a little bit earlier, and obviously we know how competitive that conference is. It's, again, really good programs inside the conference that really test you and set you up for postseason success. But when you look at the schedule as a whole, a lot of work is done in the early portion, right? And then on conference, what you're able to do, how you stack midweeks is really important as you build out your schedule. What does all that look like for Duke baseball in 2024?
Yeah, really tough start, JJ. They go down to Conway one of those Coastal Carolina tournaments. They take on an Indiana team that many believe is a dark horse to get to Omaha, a George Mason team that's really, really good. And then, Coastal Carolina, they're always good, especially in that ballpark. They like to hit a lot of home runs. And they're a team that, look, they're going to be out for a little bit of revenge after Duke went down there and won a regional in Conway last spring. So I think the Blue Devils will have their hands full opening weekend. Then you get a Northwestern team that is maybe much improved from the team that Duke saw a couple of years ago, new coaching staff there. And then you look at the midweeks too. I mean, it's the usual cast of characters in the midweek. Liberty, who's always a team that contends in Conference USA and has been to regional championships, regional finals under Scott Jackson. Recently, East Carolina, who is a perennial regional power. Davidson, who's always a contender in the A-10. And then you look up and, oh, man, you're into ACC play, and you open up ACC play with Wake Forest, the consensus pick to win the ACC again this year, a team that got to Omaha last year. You think about the Coastal Division that Duke's in with Virginia, who went to Omaha. North Carolina factors to be a really competitive team again this year, although they just lost their Friday night guy a couple of weeks ago. Georgia Tech, very offensive team too. You have to go to NC State, and that might be the best club NC State's had in, the 12 years that I've been doing this, and that's saying something considering that team with Rodon and Turner that got to Omaha a few years ago. So, look, there's no easy weekends in the ACC, and even teams that are picked to finish at the bottom of the league, they're going to beat a lot of other teams. I mean, this is maybe top to bottom the best the ACC has been in a long, long time. And week in and week out, you're going to see upsets. You're going to see teams beating other teams. And we get to the end of the year, the ACC is certainly going to be battle tested.
Absolutely. Excited to see this Duke baseball team get going here in just about a week. And, of course, those home games on the ACC Network Extra, we're going to enjoy getting to watch and listen to Chris Edwards call those baseball games. Who's going to be in the booth with you for a lot of those games?
I don't know yet.
Okay, how about that? A tease for people there. Yeah. Come back then. That's exciting stuff. Well, we got to talk women's basketball because it's heating up. March is right around the corner, and we'll pivot, Chris, after we take one more time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Exciting time of year. Of course, the big game coming up this weekend. Happy Super Bowl to everyone, and make sure you check out FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Now you can bet on Super Bowl 58 in many different ways, from who will win to who scores a touchdown, how many points will be scored total, and so much more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's right. Visit FanDuel.com to sign up. FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's wind down today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my friend Chris Edwards. He is also the play-by-play radio voice for Duke women's basketball here on this Thursday, a home game a little bit later for the Duke Blue Devils against Wake Forest. What are some things to watch for in this game in particular?
Just win the game tonight. Okay? Just win the game. Listen, if you want to talk about the definition of what people call a trap game, this is it. Wake has really struggled this year. The Demon Deacons have lost 10 in a row. They haven't won an ACC game yet this year. Duke should win. But there's a little basketball game coming up on Sunday, which has gotten a lot of attention. It's Duke and North Carolina. The game is already sold out. It was sold out on Sunday. So there's a lot going that you got to go right. You got to we got to lock in, pardon the pun here. You got to lock in tonight and take care of business against the Demon Deacons, and then you can look ahead to Sunday in North Carolina and the rivalry and all the things that come with it. But I just think for Duke, it's important to do what they've done in the last 12 games. They've won, 10 of their last 12 overall. They're playing some really good basketball. Got to rebound, got to take care of the basketball. All the cliche things that you hear coaches say, but it's kind of true for this team. If they rebound, they take care of the basketball, but then they got to make some shots. Duke has been a very streaky team at times this year offensively, hitting 13, 14 threes in a game a couple different times, hitting 1-2 threes in a game some other times as well. But Duke's played well at home this year, 10-2 overall inside Cameron this year. So we'll see. A fast start would be nice for the Blue Devils tonight, just to go ahead and remove the doubt, put the game away, and then look ahead to the rivalry on Sunday afternoon.
What players should we be buying stock in right now, Chris, just based on how they've been playing as of late on this Duke team?
There's a lot of them, JJ. I mean, Reagan Richardson is really starting to turn things on for the Blue Devils. Kennedy Brown has been phenomenal for Duke over the last 11 games, really since right before the holiday break. I think Kennedy over the last 11 or 12 games is averaging over 9 points and 6 rebounds per game. Still continue to be impressed by Aluchi Akanawa and the job that she does off the Blue Devil bench, averaging in double figures and leading the team in rebounds, has a motor that just doesn't stop. Taina Mayer has been phenomenal for Duke. She's really growing into that point guard role as well. So the list goes on and on for this Duke team, but it's that core nucleus, I think, that's really starting to figure it out for Duke. And you want your stars and your best players to be playing their best at this time of the year. I mean, the reality is we're in February, which is hard to believe. There's 8 regular season games left. It's a war of attrition. I mean, Duke still has to play North Carolina twice. They still have NC State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia one more time. So this is a league race that's not yet been decided. I mean, I realize the Blue Devils have, 4 conference losses, but I think that the team that ends up winning the league is going to have 3, maybe 4 losses. So Duke's still in it, but there's just a lot of basketball to be played and a really tough finish for the Blue Devils. You think about trips to Virginia Tech, a trip to Syracuse, a trip to Blacksburg, NC State's at home, at Carolina. You got Notre Dame at home. I mean, there's some really challenging games left for the Blue Devils. And I think if you find a way to win 3 or 4 more, you feel pretty good about postseason play. But I think the goal right now for everybody is just to go 1-0 and win the game on Thursday night.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Wake Forest, a big one coming up here for Duke. As you said, the message amongst the players, the coaching staff, those involved directly with the game is like, let's take care of business later tonight against Wake Forest. We can't look ahead to what's coming on Sunday with the big matchup against North Carolina. That doesn't apply to me and you, Chris. You and I are certainly able to do
I'm going 1-0. 1-0, just trying to beat Wake Forest.
Oh, man. But I am curious because I do want people to get a sense of what the rivalry is like on the women's side of things, right? You think Duke and North Carolina, you're thinking Mike Krzyzewski and Dean Smith, Coach K, Roy Williams, a big conversation set to air at the end of the month on the ACC network with Coach K and Roy Williams, kind of going back through their rivalry over the years. What does that look like on the women's side of things? Because from the outside looking in, when we're tuning in, the games look just as intense.
They are. I mean, it's Duke Carolina. Duke Carolina always delivers, right? I mean, I think if Duke and Carolina got together and played tic-tac-toe in the backyard, it would be intense, right? It would draw a crowd. Like, it's Duke and Carolina. That's all you need to know, right? Like, it's 7 miles. It's, I'm going to get me and 4 of my friends, and you're going to get you and 4 of your friends, and you're going to go out in the backyard and play a game, and we're going to just go at it for 40 minutes and see who the best team is. Listen, there's no love loss, like it's Duke and Carolina, as I've said, and these are 2 teams that have battled year in and year out. Carolina came into Cameron last year and kind of spoiled senior day, and look, the Blue Devils know the task at hand. Carolina has been one of the more consistent teams this year.
Yeah.
Although they'll come into Cameron having lost 2 straight to NC State and Virginia Tech, losing in overtime on Sunday. They're off tonight. So they've got a week to prepare for the Blue Devils, which probably helps them a little bit. They've been banged up this year too, but it's going to sound cliche, and I understand that, but you can certainly throw the records out when these teams get together because it's just how it is. I think in every sport, right? But especially in this rivalry and 2 really good coaches and Coach Lawson. Courtney Banghart does a great job for the North Carolina program. So I'm excited. Cameron's going to be rocking as it always is. 93-14 in the building, and we're going to have a lot of fun on Sunday afternoon.
We'll be tuned in for sure. We'll be listening to your call, not only tonight, but for Sunday's game as well. Chris, as always, the time is so greatly appreciated. Remind folks where they can find all your work and follow along.
Yeah, JJ, appreciate the visit as always. The easiest way is just on the Varsity Network app. You can download the Varsity Network app, free download, and then search for Duke, and everything you need is right there. All the coaches' shows, all the broadcast, everything. And we'll see you tonight, and then see you on the radio again on Sunday.
Can't wait. Chris, we'll do this again sometime soon, okay?
Looking forward to it, JJ.
All right, that's Chris Edwards joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to do it for our show here today. Thank you so much for all of the support. As always, make sure you follow and subscribe for our coverage here of Duke Athletics. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.